Hello everyone and welcome back to The Grave Mist. Whisper. Now, I know many of you listen to these stories late at night, maybe while you're cleaning, driving, or trying to fall asleep. But let me ask you something first. Have you ever worked somewhere that just didn't feel right after closing? Where the air feels still, the lights hum a little too loud, and the aisles seem longer than they did in the morning? Tonight's story takes us inside a 24-hour superstore, where a night shift supervisor discovers that the building itself is changing every hour. Not haunted, not cursed, just rewriting itself. Before we begin, take a second to comment below where you're listening from. It's always incredible to see how far our late-night community reaches. And if you enjoy these strange true night mysteries, make sure to subscribe and tap that bell. It really helps keep the lights on around here. Now, dim the lights, sit back, and let's begin. Inventory night was supposed to be simple. Every aisle labeled, every product scanned, every shelf reset before the morning rush. I'd been the night supervisor for 4 years, long enough to know every creak of the ceiling vents, every flicker of the fluorescent tubes, every hum from the compressors in frozen foods. Nothing about this place surprised me anymore. Or at least, it shouldn't have. That night, though, something was off before we even started. The blueprints on my clipboard didn't match what I was seeing. Aisle 7 was shorter by at least 2 rows, maybe 3. The space where the baking section used to start now dead-ended into a stock cage. The dairy coolers, 6 gleaming silver doors that always faced the front registers, had somehow been rotated 90 degrees, pointing toward produce. At first, I thought someone on the day shift had rearranged the layout for a floor reset and forgotten to log it. Happens sometimes, usually with management who like surprise merchandising. But when I opened my floor map app to note the change, the cursor started to tremble and flicker, jumping between 2 versions of the store layout, like the screen couldn't decide which one was real. I reset the tablet twice. Same thing. The cursor hovered over aisle 7, jittering like a trapped fly. Then, right before the app crashed, every digital label blurred into static grey. The air had that thick, stale smell of cardboard and Freon, normal for a warehouse, but heavier somehow, almost metallic. I was about to radio for maintenance when the overhead lights dimmed. One long blink, a low electric groan, and then they came back, brighter, sharper, almost white. Everyone froze. My crew of 6 just stood there, eyes half shielded. I blinked spots from my vision and took a slow step forward. The store had changed. Aisle 4, which should have been home to cereals and breakfast foods, now carried nothing but cleaning supplies. Wall-to-wall bleach, disinfectant, paper towels. The cereal was gone. No traces, no empty boxes, no backstock. Just erased. "Did anyone move this?" I called out. Nobody answered. I could hear the scanner guns still beeping in the distance, but the rhythm was wrong. Slower, offbeat. I checked the cameras from my tablet. The timestamps were looping between 00:59 and 01:02 a.m. Over and over. The same footage of me looking down at the tablet, resetting, glancing up again. Like the system couldn't move past that minute. I walked the aisle end to end, my boots echoing off the tiles. Every few feet, a faint vibration passed underfoot, almost like a generator running beneath the floor. When I stopped walking, it stopped too. The store PA crackled suddenly, hissing static for a few seconds before a flat, automated voice cut in. "Inventory phase complete. Prepare for next cycle." I stared up at the ceiling speakers. We didn't have any announcements scheduled for the night. When I looked back down, the app had restarted on its own. The map was blank now, completely unmarked, except for a single blinking point near the dairy section. It read, "Supervisor, active zone." I didn't remember entering that zone. And then, In the reflection of the freezer door, I saw something move, just a ripple of shadow between the rows, too fast to name. The air shifted again. The hum deepened. It was exactly 1:00 a.m., and the store had begun its first reset. At first, I tried to convince myself it was fatigue. The overnight shift always plays tricks on your mind. The fluorescent hum, the way shadows move between pallet stacks, the stale chill of air conditioning that never shuts off. But that night, there was something else, something rhythmic. Every 60 minutes, my clipboard timer pinged a new alert. Inventory phase change. It wasn't part of our system. No one had programmed it. No department had that kind of automation, especially not on a manual reset night. When I ignored the alert, the store seemed to pulse, a low vibration through the tile under my boots, just enough to make the pens on the counter roll a few inches. Then, like clockwork, the equipment around us responded. The handheld scanners rebooted. The registers flickered. The store map app on my tablet blinked, faded, then reloaded itself into a slightly different layout. The cereal aisle reappeared, but only halfway, sliced cleanly between two new rows of pet food. The canned goods had moved 4 aisles north, and when I checked the security feeds, the monitors were switching angles back and forth like two overlapping timelines fighting for control. Each feed showed the same spot in the store, but not at the same moment. In one, the carts were lined neatly near the doors. In the next, the same carts were scattered across the floor as if someone had left in a hurry. I tapped the screen, but the footage desynced again, swapping order, repeating itself. "System lag," one of my clerks muttered behind me, but I knew lag didn't rearrange shelves. I did a manual walk. Every step echoed differently now, like the acoustics of the building had shifted an inch wider. I followed the wall to aisle 9, counting as I went. My stickers were still there, bright orange inventory tags placed earlier that evening. Sticker 001, sticker 002, sticker 003. But then, right P. Style 9, sticker 0039. I froze. The handwriting was mine. My same slanted 3, the same underlined 9. But I hadn't placed it. I checked my log. I'd only catalogued up to 020 before the lights flashed. There was no reason for a 0039 to exist. The sticker sat on a shelf stacked with unfamiliar items. Silver packaging, no branding, just embossed letters that read, "Test stock, do not move." When I peeled the sticker up, a faint buzz passed through the shelf metal, like static crawling across my skin. I dropped the tag and stepped back. The shelf trembled once, then went still. I scanned it anyway. The handheld beeped, but the readout was gibberish. Location, null row 39. Status, active. Active. I radioed my assistant in receiving. "You move any product from section 3. Static. A burst of garbled words, then silence. I tried again. This time, the voice that came through was mine. Faint, delayed, whispering the same words I'd just said back to me. "You move any product from section 3. The timer on my clipboard pinged again. 02:00 a.m. Another phase change. The lights flickered white, just once. And when they came back, the sticker on the shelf was gone. But a new one had appeared behind me, on the wall beside the exit door. Same handwriting, same bright orange. Sticker 0040. The space beneath it read in smaller letters, written by the same hand. Keep counting. The next reset didn't wait for the hour mark. It came 15 minutes early. No alert, no hum from the compressors, no flicker from the ceiling vents. Just a sudden blinding flood of white light. Not off, not dim. Pure white. Like standing inside a blank page. For a moment, every surface disappeared. The tiles, the shelves, even the air around me. Gone. Then the light folded back into color, slow as an exhale, and the world returned. Except everyone else was gone. The chatter on the radios had vanished mid-sentence. The echo of movement, the shuffle of carts, the distant click of a handheld scanner, all erased. Just silence so deep I could hear my pulse thudding in my ears. I called for my lead clerk. Jessica, copy? Static. Dean, check in. Nothing. 6 employees gone in the time it takes a light to flash. At first glance, the store looked normal. Better than normal, actually. Every aisle stood in perfect alignment, shelves evenly spaced, products fronted to exact precision. It was cleaner than any store had the right to be, like it had been rebuilt overnight, not reset. I walked through, half expecting to find them in the next aisle, laughing about a power glitch. But as I moved deeper, the differences started stacking up. The colors were off, too uniform. Every box, every bottle, every can followed the same muted palette of white and pale grey. The fonts were unfamiliar, almost clinical. None of the brands we carried were there anymore. I stopped in front of a row of silver pouches stacked chest high. Each one bore a single label printed in military block letters. Henderson Industrial Meal, Prototype 04. There was no flavor description, no nutritional chart, no barcode, just that label. I tried scanning one anyway, out of habit. The handheld beeped, then froze. The screen filled with static, lines of unreadable text scrolling upward before cutting to black. The device rebooted itself with a low electronic sigh, like something exhaling. The next pouch I touched felt warm, just slightly, like it had been sitting under a lamp. But there was no heat source nearby. When I turned it over, I realized there was no seam, no opening, just smooth metal from edge to edge. I checked the expiration date. Nothing. Just a blank embossed line where numbers should have been. I tore one pouch open with a box cutter. Inside was something pale, dense and pulsing faintly, like breathing foam. I dropped it, and it landed without a sound. The air smelled sharper now, chemical and metallic. My tongue tingled like I'd licked a battery. I looked up at the ceiling clocks, one above each department. All of them, every single one, had stopped at the same time. 4:47 a.m. I checked my watch. 2:47. My phone. 2:47. The register displays, the power panel, even the generator's built-in timer, all frozen on the same second. I whispered to the empty store, "All right, who's playing with the system?" The PA system crackled once, and my own voice answered, "Inventory cycle complete. Supervisor acknowledged." My skin crawled, because I hadn't said anything into the mic. And when I turned toward the customer service counter, the place I'd been standing the moment the lights went white, I saw my clipboard sitting there, open to a fresh page. Written in thick black marker in my own handwriting, "Next reset, 2:46 a.m. I locked myself inside the manager's office. The lights in the main aisles were still too bright, buzzing like a swarm behind the walls. The radio was useless, just a steady hiss, like something breathing through static. I needed a record, something physical, something not connected to the network. The paper backup map hung on the corkboard beside the safe. We used it during corporate audits, handwritten sections, emergency routes, storage bays, all inked by supervisors over the years. I pulled it down and spread it across the desk, flattening the folds with my palms. That's when I saw the notes. Fresh blue ink, my handwriting. Do not enter Frozen 3. Follow the hum, not the lights. Reset complete. Next cycle, Guthrioku. Each phrase circled in pen, jagged from pressure, like someone had written them fast. The problem was, I didn't remember writing any of them. The pen still sat on the desk beside the ledger, uncapped, the tip smeared with the same blue. My first thought, stress. I'd been awake for 18 hours. Maybe I'd scribbled reminders and forgotten. But then I noticed something stranger. New aisles. whole sections of the store that didn't exist before midnight. Aisle 14A, short-life produce. Aisle 15C, customer returns, perishable. And beside each one a small number in parentheses, EXP 0302's expiration dates, not for products, for the aisles themselves. The office clock ticked behind me, the second hand dragging slow, like it didn't want to move forward. I flipped open the daily floor plan on the clipboard. Frozen 3 wasn't on it. We only had 2 freezer sections, dairy and meats. There was no Frozen 3. I turned back to the paper map. In the top corner, someone had drawn a faint arrow leading off the edge of the printed grid, a small scribble beside it. Exit loop here. I didn't recognize the symbol next to it. 3 parallel lines curving downward like ripples. It's in water. Something about the handwriting unsettled me. The longer I looked, the less it looked like mine. The spacing was off, the slant too deliberate. I tried to call corporate maintenance. The phone's display blinked line in use, even though the cord was unplugged. From the receiver came a faint humming tone. Low, continuous, almost rhythmic. That was when I remembered the note. Follow the hum, not the lights. I set the phone down and listened. The sound wasn't coming from the handset. It was beneath the floor, vibrating through the desk legs, through the tiles, like machinery buried deep below the store. I followed it to the hallway. Each step I took, the hum grew stronger, deeper. The light fixtures flickered to half power, one by one, guiding me toward the receiving bay. A draft of cold air slid past my ankles, carrying the smell of Freon and something faintly sweet, like antifreeze. The humming stopped at a locked metal door labeled Frozen 3. No one had ever mentioned this section. No key on my ring fit the lock, but taped beside the handle was another blue note, written in the same slanted handwriting. 0302 cloud. Reset access granted. If you're reading this, you already left once. The office clock ticked from 2:59 to 3 o'clock. The hum started again, louder this time. And from behind the door came the sound of shifting metal shelves. I decided it was time to leave. Whatever was happening, whatever the store was doing, it was no longer a technical glitch. I just needed to step outside, get some air, and call for help. Simple. The problem was, the exits were gone. Where the front doors should have been, those automatic sliding glass panels that hissed open whenever someone approached, there was now a single seamless wall of glass. Polished, spotless, not a fingerprint in sight. I pressed my palm against it and left no mark. It wasn't cold like normal glass either. It was warm, faintly vibrating under my touch, like it had a pulse. I turned toward the garden exit at the far end of the store. The layout looked familiar enough. Racks of hoses, fertilizer bags, patio chairs stacked on pallets. But when I opened the door, I didn't see the outdoor loading dock or the parking lot lights. Instead, I was staring into the automotive section, rows of motor oil and windshield wipers lined in perfect symmetry. The door had looped back inside. I tested another, the emergency door near receiving. The kind with the panic bar and the red sticker that read, "Alarm will sound." It opened without a sound. On the other side, I saw shirts, racks of them, the clothing department. I stepped through and found myself staring back toward the customer service desk. Every door was folding inward. The building had no outside anymore. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the store wasn't rearranging. It was folding itself like paper, edges tucking over edges until the inside consumed the outside. I tried my radio. Nothing but static. The hum beneath the floor had grown louder again, steady, mechanical, almost like a breathing rhythm. Then the overhead PA system came to life. The speakers crackled, feedback whining through the air until it steadied into a clear voice. "Attention, overnight staff. The next reset will occur in 5 minutes. Please stand clear of the floor." The voice was mine, not a recording from an earlier shift, not a glitch, my exact tone, cadence, and words. I froze, every muscle tensed. The sound filled the entire building, bouncing through aisles like an order from nowhere. I ran to the customer service counter and checked the paging mic. The indicator light was off. The mic wasn't even connected. It had been unplugged since inventory started. The clock on the wall read 2:55 a.m. I watched the seconds drag forward, slower than they should have. The hum beneath the tiles deepened until the ground itself seemed to breathe in sync with it. The shelves began to tremble, items rattling gently, as if bracing for an earthquake. Somewhere behind the pharmacy section I heard a loud metallic clang, then another, the sound of doors sealing themselves shut. The PA voice, my voice, spoke again, softer this time. All exits secured, all staff accounted for. Prepare for reconfiguration. I stepped backward until my shoulder hit a shelf. The products nearest me, rows of identical cleaning bottles, had shifted. Their labels now read, Exit Substitute, Do Not Use. I blinked, looked again. The text was gone. The floor trembled. The ceiling lights dimmed to half strength. And as the timer on the clock hit 3:02 a.m., my voice whispered one final line through the speakers. Supervisor confirmed. Reset commencing. The hum spiked into silence. Then everything, every light, every sound, folded into white. I was halfway down aisle 4 when I saw movement. 3 shapes in blue uniforms, moving in slow, synchronized motions beneath the flicker of the freezer lights. At first, I felt a wave of relief. People. Staff. Someone else had made it through whatever this reset was. But that relief turned to ice the moment I got closer. They weren't just working. They were mirroring each other. Each one knelt at the same second, lifted a can from the same shelf, turned it twice in their hands, and placed it down in perfect unison. Every movement identical to the other, down to the tilt of their heads, the rhythm of their breathing. All 3 wore the same navy vest, the same reflective stripes, the same stitched name tag. My name. Hey! I shouted, my voice cracking in the cold air. Who's running this section? None of them reacted. Not a twitch. They just kept working, silent except for a low whisper threading through their movements. 1, 2, 3, 4. The counting never stopped. Every time they placed a can, they said the next number, a soft chant blending into the hum of the freezers. I stepped closer, boots squeaking against the polished floor. The air felt heavy here, colder than the rest of the store. I could see my breath fogging the glass doors. The cans they were stacking weren't labeled like anything I'd ever seen before. The logos were all blurred, the fonts unfinished, like placeholder images waiting to be printed. Each can had a single word etched into the metal, faintly visible beneath the frost. Unit. No barcode, no price tag, no brand. Just that one word, over and over. I leaned close to one of the shelves. My reflection in the glass door looked warped, longer, stretched, like I was watching myself from underwater. The 3 of them continued their ritual. Pick, turn, place, whisper. I circled around the end of the aisle, trying to catch one of their faces. The overhead lights flickered as I did, just once, and when they came back, there were 4 of them. 4 identical employees, 4 identical versions of me. I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs. Stop, I said quietly. Just stop. They didn't. They all turned at once instead, heads rotating in perfect sync until their eyes met mine. No emotion. No thought. Just dull focus, like mannequins waiting for a cue. Then one of them, myself, smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Supervisor confirmed, he said. His voice was mine, but slowed down, flattened, like a recording played through static. The others repeated after him. Supervisor confirmed. Supervisor confirmed. Their bodies began to move again, faster now. Hands sweeping cans onto shelves, stacking them higher, faster, until the metal clanged like a storm of noise. I backed away. "What are you doing?" The nearest one stopped mid-motion. He lifted a can and held it out to me like an offering. The label shimmered faintly, letters rearranging themselves until they spelled out a new word. Replacement. I stumbled backward, bumping into the end cap display. When I looked up again, they were gone. The aisle was empty, perfectly stocked. But every shelf label now read ISIL 4, staff aligned. And in the freezer door's reflection, there were still 4 of me standing there. Only one was breathing. At exactly 3 o'clock a.m., the ceiling lights flared again, so bright the air itself seemed to ripple. I threw up a hand to shield my eyes, but the glow cut through my eyelids. When it faded, I blinked spots away and realized the floor beneath my boots felt closer. The store had changed again. Only this time, it wasn't just rearranged. It was smaller. The aisles were shorter, the walkways narrower. End caps that once had 3 rows of product now had 2. I walked toward the frozen section and felt my shoulder brush the edge of a display that had never been that close before. The space felt compressed, like the walls had taken a deep breath and refused to exhale. The hum under the floor was louder now, steady and low, the rhythm of a machine under strain. Somewhere overhead, a vent released a hiss of cold air that smelled like ozone and old plastic. I took out my tablet. It had rebooted itself during the flare. The digital floor map glowed pale blue, shifting on its own. New labels had appeared where empty space used to be. S4, restricted. Z5, completed. Z6, final sweep. Each section blinked red like a warning light. I hadn't programmed any of them. The app scrolled automatically to the bottom of the map and displayed a new log entry and system text. Supervisor accounted for, preparing next iteration. My breath caught. The system had logged me as part of its process. I tried to edit the entry. The field was locked. Every time I tapped it, the text pulsed once, almost like it was acknowledging me. A shelf nearby groaned, the sound sharp and metallic. I turned just in time to see the structure shift half an inch to the left. The metal didn't scrape or roll. It folded. Each shelf seemed to dissolve into the next, compressing like an accordion, until the entire unit stood half its size. The products adjusted with it, shrinking to fit the new space. I took a step back. Heart hammering. My shadow looked wrong, elongated, warped against the tile, like the light was bending around something I couldn't see. "Hello?" My voice echoed strangely, thinner than it should have been. From somewhere near the front, registers came the faint clatter of cans rolling across tile. I hesitated, then moved toward the sound, passing through what used to be the snack aisle. The signs had changed. Z4, restricted access. Each letter was hand-painted, but the paint was still wet. When I reached the end of the aisle, I saw the registers, but there were only 2 now instead of 6. The others had vanished, replaced by smooth, blank floor. The remaining counters flickered between 2 versions, once sleek and new, then old and cracked, switching like frames in a dying film reel. I gripped the edge of one counter. The touchpad flared to life on its own. A line of text scrolled across it, slow, deliberate. Cycle integrity confirmed. Supervisor retention necessary. Then another line. Begin collapse of Z5. A low rumble shook the floor. Somewhere deep in the store, metal tore like distant thunder. I turned back toward the aisles, but the path I'd taken was gone, replaced by a solid wall of shelves pressed tight together, seams vanishing as they fused. The map on my tablet flickered again, zooming in until a single blinking dot remained. 6. Final sweep. And under it, a note written in my own handwriting appeared across the screen. Stay still. It knows where you move. By the time I reached what used to be aisle 12, the floor no longer felt like tile. It was smooth, unfinished concrete that sloped gently downward, as if the ground itself had been repoured. The shelves tilted with it, angling toward a faint orange glow at the far end. Every footstep echoed longer than it should have, stretching into silence that didn't quite fade. The aisle wasn't supposed to slope. The blueprints had no sublevels, no basements, no stairs leading anywhere below the sales floor. But the further I walked, the heavier the air became. Cool, dry, almost pressurized, like being inside a sealed chamber. At the bottom of the ramp stood a door I had never seen before. Metal, seamless, humming faintly from within. Above it, backlit in white letters, the sign read, Inventory, Control, Subfloor. I froze. We didn't have a subfloor. We had cold storage, yes, but that was on the opposite side of the building, near receiving. This door was where the seasonal section should have been. A badge reader blinked beside the frame, steady and green. I pulled my ID from my belt and held it out, half expecting nothing. The light on the reader flickered once, then turned solid. The lock clicked open. I don't remember ever being cleared for this level. When the door slid aside, a breath of air brushed past me. Cool, metallic, faintly sweet. The lights flickered on in sequence. Long fluorescent bars lining the ceiling, each one humming louder than the last. The space beyond was huge but empty, stretching out farther than the store itself should allow. And right at the center, a single workstation. One metal desk, one chair, one monitor, glowing pale blue. I hesitated at the threshold. My footsteps echoed twice. Once when I moved, then again a split second later, delayed like a playback. The monitor screen showed live security footage. Me standing in the doorway, staring at the monitor. I raised my hand. The version of me on screen followed a beat later, jerky and delayed, like bad signal lag. I stepped closer. The other me stepped closer. The delay narrowed. Half a second now. I leaned in until I could see the reflection of the monitor in my own eyes. The feed flickered, cutting between angles that shouldn't exist. Shots of aisles from above, then below, like someone had buried cameras under the floor. A cursor blinked at the bottom corner of the screen. Then, without my touching anything, words began to type themselves across it. Supervisor motion confirmed. Tracking iteration sync. The ME on screen tilted his head, slightly off from mine. His expression didn't match anymore. He wasn't mirroring, he was studying. I took a step back. He didn't. The cursor flashed again. Cycle delay 0003. Preparing overwrite. The lights overhead dimmed to a dull amber. The hum in the walls deepened into a steady mechanical throb that I could feel in my ribs. I reached for the power switch on the monitor, but it had none. The tower beneath the desk was sealed. No cables, no ports, no fans. The machine wasn't plugged into anything. The other me on screen finally moved again, leaning forward until his face filled the entire display. He mouthed a single word, silent but unmistakable. Down. The floor under my feet vibrated once. Then it began to sink. At 4:00 a.m., the store breathed in. I could feel it, the air pressure tightening, the temperature dropping, the hum beneath the floor turning into a pulse. Then everything went white again. Not bright white like before. This was emptiness, depthless. When the light faded, there were no aisles, no product, no end caps, no shelves to orient myself with. Just rows of ceiling lights vanishing into fog, stretching forever. The floor beneath my boots was smooth and reflective, like wet tile, but when I moved, My steps made no sound. The walls, or what used to be walls, were gone. The edges of the world had dissolved into haze. Only the light strips above remained, hanging in long lines that bent and curved in impossible directions, like geometry trying to rewrite itself. A few shelves floated in the fog, suspended mid-air. They weren't anchored to anything, just hanging, perfectly still, stocked with faint outlines of objects that flickered in and out of existence. A can, a box, a carton, all glowing faintly before dissolving like ghosts. I looked down and saw my reflection stretching across the floor. It looked back, but not quite right. Half a second behind. Movements just slightly delayed. When I blinked, it blinked late. When I turned my head, its eyes lagged, catching up with a jolt. That's when the intercom clicked on. Inventory complete. The voice was a whisper this time, soft but all-encompassing. It echoed through the fog like it was being spoken inside my skull. Return supervisor to start. The voice was mine again, calm, flat. My chest tightened. Start where? I whispered to no one. My voice barely carried. It felt swallowed by the fog the moment it left my mouth. The lights overhead began flickering in sequence, forming a faint pathway leading deeper into the mist. Each flicker stretched into the next, like breadcrumbs of light. I followed, because what else could I do? Every few steps the hum changed pitch, climbing higher as if something underground was powering up. The air shimmered faintly, and for a moment I thought I saw outlines of people in the fog, shapes moving parallel to me. Dozens of them, all in identical uniforms. Their silhouettes were familiar. When I stopped, they stopped. When I moved again, so did they. The fog parted ahead, revealing a single glowing clock mounted on a glass wall. Its face showed 4 o'clock a.m., frozen. The second hand ticked once, hesitated, then twitched backward. My reflection in the glass looked solid now, more real than the world behind me. It smiled faintly, but I didn't. A faint whisper crackled through the intercom again. Supervisor acknowledged, initiating restoration. The ground rippled beneath me. The lights dimmed until only the glow of the clock remained. It ticked forward once, then spun wildly, hands blurring into a single circle of motion. The fog rushed in, swallowing everything. The shelves, the ceiling, even the light. I felt the pull of gravity shift, like being dropped through water. My stomach lurched. Then, in total darkness, the clock snapped into focus again, digits now digital, cold, and green. Clock AM. The intercom sighed. My voice, tired now, almost gentle. Reset, successful. And before I could turn around, the lights above blinked to life. The aisles were back. Everything was exactly where it had been. Products neat, registers humming, air still. As if nothing had ever changed. Except the sign above the front door now read, in small, flickering letters, "Welcome back, supervisor. Cycle 2 begins." When the morning crew arrived, the store was perfect. Flawlessly organized. Every shelf faced, every price tag aligned, every scanner light blinking green in a rhythm that sounded almost like breathing. No one questioned it at first. They assumed the night team had worked overtime, cleaning the mess that usually followed inventory night. But as they walked the aisles, a quiet unease began to spread. The floor gleamed too much. The air was too still. Even the hum of the lights above seemed rehearsed. Mara, the opening manager, was the first to notice something was missing. Not products or equipment, but evidence of people. The logbooks, the checklists, the security keycards, all reset to blank. No sign-ins, no shift reports, as though no one had been there at all. Except for one note. It was taped to the break room door, written in thick black marker, letters slanted with the same urgency as someone leaving a warning mid-breath. The paper was curled at the edges, the ink bled from moisture. If you see the lights flash white, don't move. Let the store remember where you belong. The signature at the bottom wasn't one, but the handwriting was mine. They thought it was a prank at first, corporate-level superstition from a tired supervisor. But when Mara tried to remove the note, the tape wouldn't peel. It had fused to the door like it had grown there. Around 8 o'clock a.m., she checked the cameras. The feeds were clean, no corruption, no glitches. Just an empty store looping through hours of stillness. The footage ended abruptly at 1 o'clock a.m., then resumed at 5:59 with everything pristine again. The night shift team, all 6 of them, had clocked in, but never clocked out. Their belongings sat untouched in the locker room. Phones, jackets, a single thermos still half full of coffee. The store manager tried to file a report, but the system wouldn't submit it. Each attempt returned the same error message: active cycle in progress. Please try again after reset. They brought in IT the next day. Technicians ran diagnostics, checked for viruses, traced the network logs. Everything looked fine, except for one detail. Every night at exactly 01:00 a.m., the server printed an automatic system receipt. Just one line, centered on the page. Reset successful. No other data. No timestamp of who initiated it. No system signature. By the end of the week, more oddities surfaced. Aisles measured slightly shorter than before. Ceiling tiles replaced themselves with a newer model that didn't exist in the store's records. A fresh scent of ozone lingered in the air every morning. Some employees joked the place was haunted. Others quit quietly. Mara stayed, but she started locking the break room door before closing. Sometimes, when she opened in the morning, the lock was undone and the lights inside were still on, flickering, faintly humming like a heartbeat. And every few nights, just before dawn, the note on the break room door would curl open as if breathing. For a split second, she swore the letters rewrote themselves, forming a single new line at the bottom. Supervisor accounted for, preparing next iteration. Then the lights would flash white, and everything would be normal again. And that brings us to the end of tonight's mystery, the store that resets. Was the building alive, a time loop, or just one long dream caught between shifts? Let me know your theory in the comments. I love reading what you all think after each story. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe for more true night horror mysteries every week. Until next time, sleep well, if your world stays in place.